Sarah Brennan's knees buckled as her father shoved her onto the auction platform, the same blood-stained boards where they'd sold Old Man Garrett's cattle last week. July sun scorched Copper Ridge's town square, but the cold shame cut deeper. Men she'd known since childhood whispered and pointed. Barren. The word stalked her like a wolf. Her father's whiskey-soaked voice boomed across the crowd, pricing her skills like she was a lame mare. This was it. The bottom. Except the bottom had a basement, and she was about to find it. Subscribe right now. This story's going places you won't see coming. Stay till the end. Comment your city. I need to know how far Sarah's shame travels before it turns into something else entirely. Summer 1877 had Wyoming territory by the throat. Sarah stood on that platform, wood grain still dark with cattle blood, and 300 pairs of eyes carved her down to nothing. Copper Ridge's town square stretched before her false front buildings, with paint peeling like sunburned skin, horses stamping flies at hitching posts, and men. Too many men, not one looking at her like she was human. Gentlemen. Patrick Sullivan's voice carried that carnival barker pitch he'd perfected back when his hands were steady enough to trade horses. They weren't steady now. Sarah smelled the corn liquor sweating through his pores from 2 feet away. Her own father, selling her. She was slight-built, all angles and hollowed spaces, the kind of thin that came from years of trying to eat shame instead of bread. Dark hair pulled back so tight it hurt. Gray eyes that had stopped expecting kindness. 23 years old and already used up. What you see here, Patrick spread his arms like a showman, is opportunity. Jim Crawford snorted from the crowd. Sarah recognized him. He'd courted her once before Henry Brennan made his claim. Before everyone knew what she couldn't do. She reads, Patrick continued warming up. Writes a fine hand. Ciphers numbers better than most men. The crowd laughed at that. Sarah's nails bit into her palms, hidden in her skirt folds where no one could see. Let them laugh. She'd survived worse at Henry's mother's dinner table every night for 4 years. Her chin lifted. Just an inch. So's cooks keeps house. Patrick ticked off skills on his fingers. Bachelor life gets lonely, gentlemen. Dirty sheets, burnt coffee, no woman's touch. Then why you selling her, Pat? Someone called. What's broke? Patrick had been waiting for that question. Sarah saw it in how he straightened, how his bloodshot eyes gleamed. Fair question, Jim. Real fair. He turned to look at her directly, first time since they'd arrived. The look wasn't love, wasn't pity. It was satisfaction, pure and simple. My daughter here was married 4 years to Henry Brennan. Good man, Henry. God rest him, took a fall from his horse last January, broke his neck clean. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Everyone knew. Everyone always knew everything in towns this size. 4 years married. Patrick let the words hang like a noose. 4 years, and not once did she quicken with child. The murmuring changed tone, shifted frequency. Saw 3 midwives, Doc Morrison twice. Even brought in that Shoshone medicine woman from Broken Creek. Patrick shook his head, slow, theatrical. Everyone said the same. Problem wasn't Henry. He didn't need to say more. Barren. The word Sarah had worn like a brand for 4 years. The word that turned her mother to stone, made Henry's family treat her like a curse, made her a ghost in her own marriage bed. Now it was public record. Before you men start walking, Patrick said, quick sensing the crowd pulling back. Think practical. Sarah can't give you sons true enough. But maybe you got children already. Maybe you got a mother needs help. Maybe you're just tired of eating your own burnt cooking and sleeping in yesterday's dirt. He gestured at her like she was a horse with one bad leg but decent temperament. $30. Less than you'd pay for a decent work mare, and I guarantee she'll complain less and last longer. Silence. It stretched like hot taffy. A horse snorted. Somewhere distant, a dog barked twice and quit. Baby crying in someone's arms getting shushed hard. No bids. Sarah kept her eyes on the Bighorn Mountains, snow-crowned peaks rising north like they had answers. Her grandmother taught her that trick. Mountains don't care about your troubles, Sarah girl. They just stand there solid and true. You be a mountain. But Sarah wasn't solid. She was crumbling from inside out, one humiliation at a time. $25. Patrick tried desperation creeping in. That's a steal. 25 and you got yourself. Does she know children? The voice came from the back, deep rough, like rocks grinding in a creek bed. The crowd turned. Parted slow. The man who walked through stood head and shoulders above most. 35, maybe more. Canvas pants worn white at the knees, cotton shirt with sleeves rolled to show forearms, roped with muscle and scars. Vest that had seen better years, but was clean-mended, careful. Boots scuffed but oiled. Hat pushed back just enough to show sun-weathered features and eyes the color of creek ice in January. Sarah knew him. Everyone did. Cole Maddox, Broken Creek Ranch. Wife died last year, influenza took her and left him with 5 children, and a house falling apart from grief. Yes, sir. Patrick seized the question like a drowning man grabbing rope. Excellent with children. Raised her brother from birth patient as Job himself. Asked her. Cole's voice stayed quiet, but cut through Patrick like a knife through butter. Not you. The square went silent. Nobody talked to Patrick Sullivan that way. Nobody. Cole's gaze landed on Sarah, not looking at her hips or chest or face like she was livestock, looking at something else, something underneath. Miss Sullivan. He used her maiden name. How old were the children you cared for? Sarah's throat was August dust dry. When she spoke, her voice cracked. My brother Sean. I raised him from birth till he could manage school. He's 15 now. Just the one? Yes, sir. She swallowed against the dryness. But Father O'Malley at St. Mary's, he'd ask me to watch children during Sunday service when their parents had to work. Keep them quiet fed if they fussed. Ages. Young ones. Walking age to maybe 7-8 years. Cole nodded slow. His Ice Creek eyes never left her face, and Sarah felt stripped down, but not the way other men looked. He was searching for something specific. She didn't know what. Didn't know if she had it. She can't birth children, Patrick interjected, worried this fish was slipping the hook. Want to be straight about that, Mr. Maddox. 4 years and nothing. Midwives all confirmed. I got children. Cole's voice stayed level. 5 of them. Their mother died 16 months back. Influenza. Understanding moved through the crowd like wind through wheat. Grace Maddox. Everyone remembered. 5 children. Patrick's voice pitched up with hope. Well, sir, you're looking at exactly $30, you said. Yes, sir, 30 and... Cole reached into his vest pocket, pulled out a small leather pouch. The crowd leaned forward, first real interest they'd shown. Maybe Patrick Sullivan would actually sell his worthless daughter after all. Cole's fingers dipped into the pouch, came out holding something small between thumb and forefinger. He stepped to the platform and set it down with a soft clink. $1 silver. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then someone gasped, sharp, like they'd been punched. Patrick's face went from hopeful to red to purple in 3 heartbeats. That's $1. Spittle flew. I said $30. Heard you clear. Cole's voice didn't rise. But that ain't what she's worth. Something cracked in Sarah's chest. Of course, she wasn't worth even the asking price. This stranger was making it crystal clear $1, same as a bottle of rot-gut whiskey. But Cole wasn't finished. $1, he said, raising his voice so every corner of that square could hear, is exactly $1 more than any man here was willing to pay. The crowd shifted like cattle, spooked by lightning. Cole turned his back on Patrick on Sarah to face them direct. Been standing here 10 minutes. Listening to this man sell his daughter like she's a three-legged mule. Listening to him list her faults for entertainment. Listening to every one of you. His gaze swept the crowd like a scythe. Decide she wasn't worth $15 because her womb don't work right. Someone opened their mouth. Cole talked over them. How many of you know Sarah Sullivan, know her to speak to? A few hands rose. Hesitant. Guilty. How many ever seen her be cruel, seen her gossip, cheat, steal, lie? The hands dropped. Silence settled heavy. That's what I figured. Cole's jaw worked. You don't know her at all. You just know she can't give a man babies, and in your minds, that makes her worthless as a broke-down mare. He turned back to Patrick. The drunk was still clutching that dollar like it personally insulted him. Here's my offer, Sullivan. $1. Take it or leave it. You take it, she leaves with me right now, and tomorrow you don't get to pretend you did right by your daughter. You sold her for drink money. That's what this town remembers. Patrick's hand shook. The dollar caught sunlight gleamed like accusation. You leave it. Cole continued, voice gentler now. You take her home. Call off the sale. Give her back some dignity. Sarah held her breath. For one wild second, she thought her father might choose her, might put her above his pride, his thirst, his need to be rid of the burden of a barren daughter. Patrick's fist closed around the coin. She's yours, he said, voice scraped raw. Good riddance. Cole nodded once, expected nothing else. He turned to Sarah, and those Ice Creek eyes had thawed some. Miss Sullivan, name's Cole Maddox. I run cattle up near Broken Creek Canyon about 12 miles northeast. Got 5 children, 4 boys, 1 girl. 13 years down to 5. His tone was businesslike. Transaction, not romance. Their mother died of influenza 16 months past. Since then I've been trying to manage ranch house and children, failing at all 3. His jaw tightened. Children need someone who can care for them proper, keep the house from collapsing, make sure they eat something besides jerky and burnt beans. He paused, choosing words careful. I can offer your own room. 3 meals daily, simple but plenty. $1 a week for personal needs. In exchange, I need you running the household, caring for my children. Another pause. His eyes held hers steady. Just that. House and children. Nothing else. I ain't looking for a wife, Miss Sullivan. I'm looking for help. Those terms acceptable. Sarah's mind reeled. This wasn't what she'd braced for. Not some man wanting a free bed warmer. Just work. Honest work for honest pay. And no judgment. Yes, sir, she managed. Terms are acceptable. You ride. Yes, sir. Not fancy, but I stay in the saddle. Good enough. Got a wagon. He glanced toward Patrick, who was already turning away, already heading for the saloon with his dollar fisted tight. You got belongings need collecting. 1 bag. At my parents' house. We'll get it. Cole stepped up onto the platform, first person besides her father, to share that blood-stained space. He offered his hand. Come on down, Miss Sullivan. You don't belong on an auction block. Sarah took his hand, rough with calluses, warm, solid as mountain stone. He helped her down like she was a lady stepping from a carriage instead of property getting sold. The crowd was still silent. Different kind of silent now. Uncomfortable. Maybe ashamed. Cole's wagon sat tied outside Henderson's general store. As they walked toward it, Sarah caught sight of her mother in the church doorway. Martha Sullivan stood statue still, face carved from granite, eyes looking past Sarah into middle distance. Mama, Sarah said. Stopped walking. Her mother's eyes flicked to her. Just a moment, then away. You made your choice. Martha's voice was flat as week-old bread. 4 years lying with a man and giving him nothing. Shaming this family. Don't expect tears from me now. The words hit like fists to the ribs. Sarah had known her mother blamed her, but hearing it spoken out loud, Cole's hand touched her elbow. Gentle, but firm. Come on. Nothing good comes from staying. Sarah let him guide her to the wagon. Behind them, conversation erupted like brush fire. By nightfall, everyone in Wyoming territory would know Patrick Sullivan sold his barren daughter for $1, and Cole Maddox bought her from either pity or pure madness. Wait here. Cole stopped at the wagon. I'll walk you to get your things. You don't have to. I do. His voice was firm. Man pays for something, he makes sure he gets it proper. Won't have anyone saying I left you to pack alone while your daddy drinks his guilt away. They walked 3 blocks to the Sullivan house in silence. Sarah felt eyes tracking them from windows, conversations dying as they passed. The house looked shabbier than she remembered. Paint peeling like diseased skin. Porch steps sagging. Garden choked with weeds. Her mother had stopped caring about such things years back. Just a moment, Sarah said. I'll wait. Cole took up position on the porch like a guard dog. Inside the house was dim, stale-smelling. Sarah moved quick to her small room, hers before marriage, hers again after Henry died. Everything she owned fit in one carpet bag. 2 dresses, undergarments patched more than original hairbrush, with half its bristles gone Bible from her grandmother's small locket with her mother's picture from better days. 4 years of marriage. This was all she had to show. Sarah closed the bag, took one last look. Her old life was over, whether the new one was better or worse. At least it was different. Cole stood exactly where she'd left him, took her bag without comment. They walked back to the wagon. The ride out of Copper Ridge was quiet. Sarah sat rigid on the wagon bench, hands folded, watching the town shrink behind them. Nobody waved goodbye. Nobody called good wishes. 1 mile out, Cole spoke. Need to be straight about my children. They ain't easy right now. I understand, Sarah said quiet. Don't think you do. His jaw worked. Caleb's my oldest, 13. Smart boy, good heart. But he thinks he's man of the house since I'm working dawn to dark. Been trying to fill his mother's shoes and mine both. It's grinding him down to nothing. The horses plodded steady. Wagon wheels creaked. Jesse's 10, angry, at me for not saving their mother, at God for taking her, at the whole damn world for spinning when his stopped. Sarah said nothing, just listened. Tommy's 8, quietest child you'll ever meet. Hasn't said more than a handful of words since the funeral. Doctor says it's grief. Says he'll talk when ready. Cole's voice roughened. Been 16 months. In the distance, the bighorns rose like promises nobody could keep. Sam's 6. Still young enough he don't fully understand forever. Keeps asking when Mama's coming home. Like she's visiting somewhere and forgot the way back. The wagon hit a rut. Sarah grabbed the seat edge. And Rose? She's 5. Only girl. Cole stopped. Cleared his throat hard. Nightmares most nights. Wakes up crying for her mama. During the day she won't let me out of sight. Follows me everywhere terrified. I'll disappear too. Silence stretched long. Their mother Grace. His voice cracked on the name. She was the heart of it all. When she died, someone ripped the center out and expected us to just keep standing. Sarah watched his hands on the reins. Cracked knuckles. Rope burns healed white. Scars on scars. A man who worked till his body broke, then worked some more. She knew that kind of tired. Had worn it herself for 4 years, trying to birth a child from a body that wouldn't cooperate. Mr. Maddox, she said, careful. What happened to your wife? Was it sudden? His jaw locked tight. 3 days. First fever to last breath. Doctor said influenza just takes what it wants sometimes. 3 days. Sarah had spent 4 years failing slow. Grace got stolen fast. She didn't know which was crueler. Need to be clear about something else. Cole's voice dropped lower. I didn't bring you to replace Grace. Nobody could. And I didn't bring you to be my wife. I ain't ready for that. May never be. He looked at her direct. Brought you because my children are drowning and I can't reach them. I can mend fence birth calves, break horses, but I can't fix what's broken my children's hearts. Don't know if you can either. But maybe you can just be there. Keep the house standing. Make sure they eat, wash, sleep. Be steady when everything else is crumbling. Mr. Maddox, Sarah said, I can't promise to fix them. Don't know how to fix grief that size. But I can promise I'll try. I'll show up daily, do the work, won't leave just because it's hard. Cole studied her long, then nodded. That's all I'm asking. They rode on, sun starting its fall toward the western edge of the world. The land here was different, more open, wilder. Red rock jutting from earth like ancient bones. Sagebrush rolling away forever, broken by scattered juniper. That's Broken Creek. Cole pointed to green line in the distance, cottonwoods marking water. Ranch sits just beyond. As they drew closer, Sarah made out buildings, main house, barn. Outbuildings clustered like they were huddling for warmth. The house was 2-story, bigger than expected, with a porch wrapping around front. But even from distance, she saw neglect, paint-peeling shutter, hanging crooked weeds thick around the foundation. 16 months without a woman's care showed. They're watching, Cole said quiet. Been watching the road since morning. Sarah's stomach went tight. 5 grieving children who didn't know her, didn't want her, would see her as an intruder in their dead mother's space. The wagon pulled into the yard. Cole set the brake. Before he could climb down, the front door burst open. 5 children spilled onto the porch, tall and gangly down to small and round-faced. They lined up staring at the wagon with expressions ranging from hostile to curious. Pa! The tallest called Caleb clearly. His voice was changing, cracking on the word. You were gone forever. Just since morning. Cole climbed down, reached up to help Sarah, his hand steady under her elbow. Children, this is Miss Sarah Sullivan. She's staying with us, helping with house and looking after you while I work. 5 pairs of eyes fixed on Sarah like she was a riddle they didn't want to solve. Don't need looking after, Caleb said flat. Been managing fine. You burned breakfast again? Piped up one of the smaller boys, light hair, gap-toothed grin. And put salt in the coffee. Shut it, Sam, Caleb snapped. Boys, Cole's voice carried warning. Mind your manners. Sarah stepped forward, clutching her carpet bag like a shield. Hello, I know this is strange. No, you don't know me. But your father thought I might help, so I'm going to try. You gonna be our new ma? The smallest child spoke, little girl with tangled blonde hair, enormous blue eyes. Rose. No, Cole said firm before Sarah could answer. Your ma is your ma, always. Miss Sarah's here to help, that's all. Said we don't need help, Caleb repeated, but conviction was draining from his voice. He looked tired, bone-deep tired that came from carrying weight too long. Well, you got it anyway. Cole's tone left no room for argument. Caleb, take Miss Sarah's bag. Show her the spare room. Rest of you inside. Supper soon. The children dispersed, slow, reluctant. Caleb snatched Sarah's bag with barely contained hostility, disappeared into the house. Others followed, casting looks back. Only Rose lingered, staring at Sarah with those enormous eyes. Rose is a pretty name, Sarah said, gentle. The little girl nodded. I knew a Rose once, had the prettiest garden. Mama had a garden. Rose's voice was small as a mouse. But it died. Everything died when Mama died. The words hung in evening air like a curse. Rose turned and ran into the house, bare feet slapping worn porch boards. Cole stood by the wagon looking at his house, at the peeling paint, crooked shutter. The dead garden barely visible around the side, withered stalks and cracked earth where something green used to grow. Welcome to Broken Creek Ranch, he said quiet. God help us all. Sarah stood in Wyoming twilight with $1 to her name and 5 hostile children waiting inside. At least she wasn't on that auction block. Whatever came next had to be better. Had to be. She picked up her carpet bag, 23 years of life weighing less than a sack of flour, took her first step toward the house. Behind her, wagon creaked as Cole unhitched horses. Ahead, a small face appeared in an upstairs window. Rose watching with those blue eyes big as dinner plates. Sarah climbed the first porch step. Wood groaned under her weight protesting, but it held. Second step. Third. The door stood open, yellow lamplight spilling into gathering dark. Inside, children's voices arguing, questioning, alive. Sarah Brennan walked through that door. Let her old name die on the threshold behind her. Whatever came next, she'd face it standing. Not kneeling on an auction block with her father's whiskey breath in her ear and 300 people deciding she was worth less than nothing. Standing. That was something. That was a start. The house smelled wrong. Sarah caught it the second she crossed the threshold, not decay exactly, but absence. Like someone had opened all the windows and let the life blow out, leaving only dust and memory behind. The main room stretched before her stone fireplace, cold and swept clean furniture arranged neat but lifeless, a dining table that could seat 8 surrounded by mismatched chairs. Everything was clean enough, just empty, like a house holding its breath. Kitchen's through there. Cole gestured left, setting her bag by the stairs. Bedrooms upstairs. 5 for the children, 1 for me. Spare room at the end of the hall for you. Thank you. Caleb. Cole called up the stairs. You take Miss Sarah's bag up yet? No answer. Cole's jaw tightened. He grabbed the bag himself and headed up. Sarah followed, aware of small eyes tracking her from doorways behind furniture through gaps in the banister. The upstairs hallway was narrow walls bare except for one framed photograph, a woman with kind eyes and dark hair pulled back simple. Grace. Had to be. Sarah looked away quick, feeling like she was trespassing just by seeing it. This one's yours. Cole pushed open a door at the hall's end. The room was small, but clean. Single bed with a patchwork quilt dresser with a cracked mirror washstand with a chipped basin. One window looking out over the front yard. Simple. More than she'd had in her parents' house. It's fine, Sarah said. More than fine. Cole set her bag on the bed, started to leave, then stopped. Look, I know this ain't easy. Walking into a dead woman's house with her children staring daggers at you. His voice dropped low. But they're good kids. Just hurting. Give them time. Time's all I got, Mr. Maddox. Something shifted in his expression. Almost a smile. It's Cole. Mr. Maddox makes me feel like my father, and he was a mean son of a bitch. Cole, then. I'll be in the barn settling the horses. Children should have started supper by now, but knowing Caleb, he probably forgot. He rubbed the back of his neck. Feel free to help yourself to whatever's in the kitchen, or don't. Do what feels right. He left before she could respond. Sarah stood alone in the small room. Through the thin walls, she heard whispers, children's voices urgent and low. Couldn't make out words, just tone. Suspicion. Resentment. Fear, maybe. She unpacked her carpet bag. 2 dresses hung in the otherwise empty wardrobe looked like ghosts of a life barely lived. The locket went on the dresser. The Bible beside the bed. Done. That was it. That was everything she owned in the world. Sarah splashed water from the basin on her face, cold, clean tasting of minerals when it dripped to her lips. Dried off with a thin towel that had been mended so many times, the stitching made a map of tiny scars. Downstairs, something crashed. A boy's voice cursed young voice, trying out words too big for him. Sarah took a breath, smoothed her dress, walked to the door. Here we go. The kitchen was chaos. Caleb stood at the stove wielding a wooden spoon like a weapon. Jesse, the 10-year-old, had to be sat on the counter swinging his legs and glaring at everything. Tommy silent. Tommy sat at the small kitchen table with a slate and chalk drawing something Sarah couldn't see. Sam bounced on his toes by the window chattering to Rose, who clutched a rag doll and watched her brothers with enormous worried eyes. "It's not burnt," Caleb was saying, stirring something in a pot that smoked ominous. "It's just—" "Smells like boot leather," Jesse cut in. "You're cooking boot leather stew." "You cook then, see if you do better." "Can't. Pa said you're in charge when he's gone." "Well, Pa's wrong. I didn't ask to be in charge of nothing." "Boys." Sarah spoke quiet from the doorway. 5 heads swiveled. The room went silent, except for whatever was burning in that pot. "The stew's scorching," Sarah said. Simple statement of fact, no judgment in it. Caleb looked at the pot. His face went red. "I know that. I was just—" "May I?" Sarah stepped forward slow, like approaching a spooked horse. Caleb's hands tightened on the spoon. For a second she thought he'd refuse. Then his shoulders sagged, and he stepped back. "Fine. You fix it. That's what you're here for anyway, right? To show us how we're doing everything wrong." Sarah took the spoon, looked in the pot. The stew wasn't just scorched, it was cemented to the bottom beans and bits of salt pork fused into something closer to mortar than food. "This pot's beyond saving," she said. "We'll need to start fresh." "There's no more meat," Caleb said flatly. "That was it. So I guess we're eating burnt stew or nothing." Sarah turned to face him. Really looked at him for the first time. 13 years old, but trying to be 30. Shoulders too tense, jaw too tight, circles under his eyes like bruises. "When's the last time you slept through the night?" she asked. The question caught him off guard. "What? You heard me. When'd you last sleep past sunrise without waking?" Caleb's mouth opened, closed. "Don't see how that's your business." "It's not." Sarah moved the pot off the stove. "But I'm guessing it's been a while. I'm guessing you wake up at dawn to make breakfast, spend the day trying to keep your brothers and sister alive, and fall into bed at night too tired to even dream. Am I close?" Caleb's eyes went shiny. He blinked hard. "Like I said, not your business." "You're right. It's not." Sarah turned to survey the kitchen. "Here's what is my business. I'm here now, which means you don't have to burn stew anymore. You can go back to being 13 instead of trying to be your father." "I'm not trying to be—" "Yes, you are. And you're doing a hell of a job considering nobody should expect that of you." Sarah met his eyes direct. "But I'm asking you to stop now. Let me do the cooking. You go be a kid for whatever time you got left before you really do have to be a man." Caleb stared at her. His throat worked. "We don't have any more meat," he said finally, voice rough. "We got eggs. Hen house out back. Probably a dozen or so. Flour. Pantry. Then we got dinner." Sarah turned to the other children. "Sam, you're the egg man. Show me where the hen house is. Jesse, I need you to pump fresh water 2 full buckets. Tommy." She paused, looking at the silent boy. "Tommy, I need the good skillet, the one that's not burnt to death. Can you find that for me?" Tommy looked at Caleb. Caleb gave a tiny nod. Tommy disappeared into the pantry. "What about me?" Rose's voice was so small, Sarah almost missed it. "You're the most important job of all, Rose. I need you to set the table. 5 places for you children, 1 for your pa, 1 for me. Think you can count that high?" Rose nodded solemn, still clutching her doll. "Good. Then let's get moving. I'm starving, and I bet you all are too." For a second, nobody moved. Then Sam bolted for the back door, and the spell broke. Jesse slid off the counter with exaggerated slowness, like he was doing Sarah a favor by helping. Tommy emerged from the pantry with a cast-iron skillet. Rose carefully set her doll on a chair and started pulling mismatched plates from a cupboard. Only Caleb stayed frozen, watching Sarah like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. "You can stay if you want," Sarah said to him quiet enough the others couldn't hear. "Supervise. Make sure I don't poison anybody." I didn't mean—" "I know what you meant, and I'm not offended." Sarah met his eyes. "You've been keeping them alive for 16 months. That's no small thing. But Caleb, you look like you're about to collapse. So please, let me do this. His jaw worked. Then, fine, but I'm watching. Fair enough. Sam came back with 8 eggs cradled in his shirt like they were made of gold. Jesse hauled in water that sloshed over the bucket rims and soaked his pant legs. Tommy set the skillet on the stove without a word. Rose arranged plates on the table with intense concentration, tongue poking between her teeth. Sarah got to work. She'd learned to cook in her mother's kitchen under the iron rule of a woman who believed that proper food preparation was the only thing separating humans from animals. Sarah had never enjoyed it, but she knew her way around a stove. Eggs went into a bowl, cracked clean, no shells. Flour and water and a pinch of salt made a quick dough. The skillet heated till a drop of water danced across its surface. "What are you making?" Sam appeared at her elbow, watching with naked curiosity. "Egg pancakes. Nothing fancy, but it'll stick to your ribs." "Mama used to make pancakes on Sundays," Sam said. Then his face crumpled. "But they were better than yours, probably." The kitchen went still. Sarah kept whisking eggs. "I imagine they were. I can't compete with your mama's cooking, Sam. Won't even try, but I can make sure you don't go to bed hungry tonight. That enough?" Sam thought about it. "I guess." "Good. Now back up before you get batter on your shirt." The pancakes came together quick. Nothing beautiful, but hot and edible, and smelling like food instead of disaster. Sarah cooked while the children orbited her, like wary moons, keeping distance but watching everything. Cole came in from the barn just as she was plating the last pancake. He stopped in the doorway, taking in the scene: children at the table, food steaming on plates, the burnt stew pot soaking in the basin. "You got them fed," he said. "Wasn't hard. They were motivated by hunger." Cole's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Still, thank you." They ate in near silence. The children shoveled food like they'd been starving. Maybe they had been living on Caleb's burnt offerings. Sarah ate slow, watching the dynamics. Caleb kept glancing at her, suspicious, but maybe a little relieved. Jesse ate with his head down, refusing to look at her at all. Tommy ate methodical, silent as stone. Sam chattered between bites about the chickens and how one was mean and pecked him, and did Sarah know chickens could be mean? Rose barely touched her food, pushing it around her plate and sneaking looks at Sarah like she might vanish if Rose blinked too long. "Rose." Cole's voice was gentle. "Eat, baby girl." "Not hungry." "You need to eat." "Mama used to cut my pancakes for me." The silence that fell was different this time, heavier. "I can cut them," Sarah offered, quiet. "No." Rose's voice went shrill. "You're not my mama. You don't get to cut my pancakes." She burst into tears and ran from the room, her doll forgotten on the chair. Cole started to rise, but Caleb was faster. "I got her, Pa." He disappeared after his sister. Jesse shoved his plate away. "Told you we didn't need help." He stomped out the back door, letting it slam. Sam looked between his remaining brothers and his father, lower lip trembling. "Are we in trouble?" "No, son. Nobody's in trouble." Cole rubbed his face, looked at Sarah. "I'm sorry. They're not usually this. They're grieving." Sarah started stacking plates. "And I'm a stranger in their mother's kitchen. They got a right to be angry." "Still, you didn't deserve that." "Didn't expect different." Sarah carried plates to the basin. Behind her, she heard Cole send Tommy and Sam upstairs to get ready for bed. Then it was just the two of them in the kitchen. The silence felt different now, not hostile, just tired. "First night's always worst," Cole said finally. "Tomorrow might be easier. Or harder." "Or harder," he agreed. "Look, if you want to leave, if this is too much, I'll take you back to town tomorrow. No hard feelings." Sarah turned to face him. "I made a promise, Cole. I don't break promises." "Even when the situation's worse than you bargained for?" "Especially then." Something in his expression shifted. Relief, maybe. or just exhaustion getting permission to show itself. "I should check on Rose," he said, "and get the boys settled. You need anything before I—" "Where does Grace's garden sit?" The question stopped him mid-step. "Out the kitchen door. East side of the house." "Why?" "Just want to see what I'm working with." Cole studied her. "Not much to see. It's been dead since she passed." "Even dead gardens can be brought back." "Maybe." He didn't sound convinced. "But that's a project for tomorrow. Tonight you should rest. It's been a long day." "For both of us." Cole nodded, started to leave, then turned back. "Sarah. What you did tonight, getting them fed, giving Caleb permission to stop, that mattered, even if it doesn't feel like it right now." He left before she could respond. Sarah finished the dishes in silence. The house settled around her floorboards, creaking upstairs. A child crying soft. Somewhere Cole's low voice murmuring comfort. Outside the window, full dark had fallen. Wyoming night, deep and absolute. She dried the last plate, hung the towel to dry, looked around the kitchen that wasn't hers, in a house that wasn't hers, with children who weren't hers but somehow had become her responsibility anyway. What am I doing here? But she knew the answer. She was here because a man had paid $1 for her in a public square and given her a chance to be worth something again. She couldn't let him down. Couldn't let those children down even if they hated her. Couldn't let herself down. Sarah stepped out the kitchen door into the night. The air was cooler now, smelling of sage and dust and something else, water maybe from the creek Cole had mentioned. She found the garden by moonlight. Dead didn't begin to cover it. The plot was maybe 20 by 30 feet, bordered by stones gone crooked with time. Inside, dried stalks stuck up like grave markers, cracked earth, withered vines, the skeleton of what had been. Sarah knelt in the dirt, picked up a handful of soil, dry, depleted, angry. Nothing would grow here without serious work, but work she could do. She planted tomatoes there. Sarah jumped, turned. Tommy stood at the garden's edge, barely visible in the dark. Silent Tommy, watching her. "Your mama?" Sarah asked. Tommy nodded, pointed to different spots in the garden. Tomatoes there, beans there, squash in the corner, lettuce up front, but it always died fast in the heat. It was the most she'd heard him speak, maybe the most he'd spoken since Grace died. "She must have been a good gardener," Sarah said. "She sang while she worked, said it made the plants grow better." Tommy's voice was barely above a whisper. "After she got sick, everything just quit growing, like the plants knew. Plants are smart that way." Tommy was quiet for a long moment. Then, "You gonna try to make it grow again?" "Thinking about it." "It won't work. Everything here's dead." "Maybe." Sarah stood, brushed dirt off her hands. "But sometimes dead things just need someone to believe in them again." Tommy stared at her. Then, without another word, he turned and walked back to the house, swallowed by shadows. Sarah stood alone in the dead garden, listening to the night sounds. Crickets, distant coyote howl, wind moving through sage. Tomorrow, she'd start the real work. Tomorrow, she'd figure out how to make 5 grieving children trust her. Tomorrow, she'd learn the rhythms of this house, this ranch, this new life. But tonight, she let herself stand in Grace Maddox's garden and acknowledge the truth. She was terrified. Terrified of failing. Terrified of proving everyone in Copper Ridge right, that she was worthless, that she couldn't do anything right, that barren meant broken in every possible way. "I don't know if I can do this," she whispered to the dead plants. The wind picked up, rattling the dried stalks. No answer came. Sarah went back inside, climbed the stairs to her small room, changed into her nightgown, and crawled between sheets that smelled like lye soap and sun. Through the thin walls, she heard Rose crying. Heard Cole's deeper voice, patient and tired. Heard Caleb pacing in his room like a caged animal. Heard Sam asking questions that nobody answered. This was her life now. Sarah closed her eyes, slept. Dreamed of dead gardens coming back to life, one impossible plant at a time. Dawn came harsh and early light slicing through her window like a blade. Sarah woke to the sound of a rooster crowing and boots on the stairs below Cole, already up and working. She dressed quick, made her way downstairs. The kitchen was empty, but coffee sat on the stove, still hot. Sarah poured a cup black bitter strong enough to strip paint and stood at the window watching the yard wake up. Cole was out by the barn talking to Caleb. Even from distance, Sarah could see the tension in the boy's shoulders. Whatever they were discussing, Caleb wasn't happy about it. The back door banged open. Jesse stomped in, saw Sarah, and his face went hard. "Coffee's not for you," he said. "That's Pa's coffee." "Your Pa made enough for sharing." "Don't care. You got no right to it." Sarah set down her cup. "Jesse, I'm not trying to take anything from you. Not your father, not your mother's memory, not your home. I'm just trying to help." "We don't need your help. Your brother Caleb's so tired he's burning water. Your Pa's working himself into an early grave. Rose cries herself to sleep every night. Sam asks questions nobody has energy to answer. And you—" Sarah kept her voice level. "You're so angry you can barely see straight." Jesse's face went red. "You don't know nothing about us." "You're right, I don't, but I know what it's like to feel like everyone thinks you're broken. I know what it's like when the whole world decides you're not worth their time." Sarah picked up her coffee again. "And I know what it's like to be so angry you want to hit something just to make the hurting stop." Jesse stared at her. His hands were fists at his sides. "I hate you," he said finally, voice cracking. "I know. I hate that you're here. I hate that Pa brought you. I hate that—" His voice broke completely. "I hate that my mama died and you're alive and it's not fair." The words hung in the air like smoke. Sarah set down her cup, took a step toward him. Jesse flinched back. "Don't touch me." "Wasn't going to. Just wanted to say you're right. It's not fair. None of this is fair. Your mama should be here, not me. And if I could trade places with her, bring her back for you kids, I would. In a heartbeat." Jesse's eyes were swimming. "Liar." "It's the truth. But I can't bring her back, Jesse. Nobody can. So what we got is this me standing in her kitchen trying not to make things worse, and you deciding if you want to spend every day hating me, or if maybe we could figure out how to live in the same house without it being a war." "I don't want to live with you." "Didn't think you did." Sarah picked up her coffee. "But here we are anyway." Jesse stood there trembling with rage or grief or both, Sarah couldn't tell. Then he turned and ran out the back door, letting it slam so hard the windows rattled. "That went well," Caleb said from the doorway. Sarah turned. The boy was watching her with something that might have been respect, or just exhaustion too deep to maintain hostility. "He'll come around," Caleb said. "Jesse always does, just takes him longer than the rest of us." "What about you? You coming around?" Caleb leaned against the doorframe. "Jury's still out. But you didn't burn breakfast yesterday, so that's a point in your favor." "Low bar." "You'd be surprised." Sarah almost smiled. "Your Pa got work for you today." "Always. Fence mending up on the north pasture. Be gone most of the day." Something shifted in Caleb's expression. "You gonna be okay here alone with them?" The question surprised her. "You worried about your brothers and sister or worried about me?" "Both, I guess." "We'll manage." Caleb nodded slow. "Tommy likes you, I think. Heard him telling Rose this morning that you knew about gardens." "He talked to Rose." "Little bit. More than he usually talks to anyone." Caleb pushed off the doorframe. Look, I know I'm not making this easy. It's just, you don't have to explain. Yeah, I do. He met her eyes direct. Mama died and the world kept going like nothing happened. Pa kept working. We kept eating and sleeping and breathing. And I kept thinking, how can everything just keep going when she's gone? How can the sun still come up? Sarah understood. God, did she understand? After my husband died, she said, quiet. I woke up the next morning and the birds were singing. I wanted to scream at them to shut up, to stop acting like everything was fine when my whole life had just collapsed. But they didn't stop, they just kept singing. What'd you do? Learn to hate birds for a while. Sarah took another sip of coffee. Then eventually I learned to hate them less. Then I didn't hate them at all. Took time though. Caleb was quiet. Then, does it get easier? The missing, no, that stays. But the sharp edges, they dull some. Eventually, you can touch the memory without bleeding. How long? Different for everyone. Caleb nodded. Looked like he wanted to say more, but Cole appeared in the doorway behind him. Ready, son? Yeah, Pa. They left together, Caleb's gangly frame matching his father's longer strides. Through the window, Sarah watched them mount horses and ride out, disappearing into the morning glare. She was alone with 4 grieving children in a house that wasn't hers. Here we go. Rose appeared first, clutching her doll and staring at Sarah with red-rimmed eyes. Morning, Rose? The little girl didn't respond, just stood there watching like Sarah might vanish if she looked away. You hungry? Still nothing. How about this, you come sit at the table and I'll make breakfast. You don't have to talk if you don't want. Just sit and keep me company. Rose considered this. Then slowly, carefully, she climbed onto a chair and set her doll beside her plate. Sarah got to work. More eggs, since that seemed to be what they had in abundance. Bread toasted over the stove. A jar of preserves she found in the pantry, contents dark and thick. Sam thundered down the stairs, Tommy trailing quiet behind. Where's Pa? Sam demanded. Out with Caleb. North pasture, I think. What about Jesse? Don't know. Haven't seen him since earlier. Sam plopped into a chair. Jesse gets mad sometimes. Then he goes somewhere and we don't see him for hours. Where's he go? Sam shrugged. Somewhere. Comes back eventually all dirty and still mad. Sarah set plates in front of the children. They ate without comment, without thanks. But they ate. That was something. She was washing dishes when Jesse finally came back, covered in dirt and breathing hard like he'd been running. There's food left if you want it, Sarah said without turning around. Silence. Then the scrape of a chair. Jesse ate standing up at the counter, shoveling food in like he was angry at it. Sarah kept washing dishes, giving him space. Mama made better eggs, Jesse said finally. I'm sure she did. And her bread didn't burn on the edges. I'll work on that. And his voice cracked. She wouldn't. Sarah turned. Jesse was crying, tears cutting tracks through the dirt on his face. She wouldn't have left us, he whispered. She wouldn't have chosen to go. No. Sarah set down her dish rag. No, she wouldn't have. Then why'd God take her when we needed her? I don't know, Jesse. That's a stupid answer. It's the only answer I got. Sarah took a careful step toward him. Your mama didn't want to leave you, but sometimes our bodies quit on us. Sometimes the world takes what we love most and doesn't ask permission. It's not fair. It's not right. It just is. Jesse wiped his face with his sleeve. I miss her so much it hurts. Where's it hurt? He pressed a hand to his chest. Here, all the time. Like something's sitting on me and I can't breathe right. That's grief. It's heavy like that. Will it stop? The weight, eventually it lifts some. But you'll always carry it. Just learns how to carry it without it crushing you. Jessie stared at her. You talk like you know. I do know. Different kind of loss maybe. But I know what it's like when the missing gets so big you think you'll die from it. But you didn't die. No, I didn't die. Sarah held his gaze. And neither will you. You'll just learn how to keep living with a mama-shaped hole in your heart. And some days it'll hurt less. Some days it'll hurt worse. But you'll keep going. Jessie wiped his face again. I don't want to keep going without her. I know. But you will anyway. Because that's what we do. We keep going even when we don't want to. Even when it hurts. We just keep going. For a long moment Jessie stood there. Then he set his plate in the basin and walked to the back door. He stopped with his hand on the handle. Thanks for breakfast, he mumbled, even if the edges were burnt. Then he was gone back out into the Wyoming morning. Sarah stood in the kitchen, hands shaking. One day down. How many more to go? Behind her Rose's small voice. Miss Sarah, can you show me the garden? Sarah turned. The little girl had slid off her chair and was standing with her doll clutched tight. You want to see the garden? Rose nodded. Tommy said you're going to make it grow again. I want to see. It's not much to look at right now, just dead plants and hard dirt. Mama always said dead things can come back if you love them enough. Rose's voice was so serious. Is that true? Sarah's throat went tight. I don't know, baby, but we can try. She took Rose's small hand the first time any of the children had let her touch them and led her out to the dead garden. They stood at the edge looking at the wasteland. It's really dead, Rose whispered. It is. Can you fix it? Sarah looked at the cracked earth, the withered plants, the stones that bordered nothing but death. I can try, she said finally. But I'll need help. Think you could be my garden helper? Rose looked up at her with those enormous blue eyes. Really? Really? Every garden needs a good helper. For the first time since Sarah had arrived, Rose smiled. Small, tentative, but real. Okay, the little girl said. I'll help. And standing there in the morning sun with a 5-year-old's hand in hers, Sarah thought maybe, just maybe, she could do this after all. One day at a time. One dead plant at a time. One grieving child at a time. She could do this. She had to. 3 weeks passed like water through a sieve fast and leaving nothing behind but residue. Sarah fell into rhythms she didn't know she was capable of. Up before dawn to start coffee and breakfast. Washing clothes in water hauled from the creek until her hands cracked and bled. Mending shirts and socks by lamplight while the children slept. Teaching Rose her letters at the kitchen table. Listening to Sam's endless questions about why chickens couldn't fly and whether clouds were made of cotton. Watching Tommy draw pictures in the dirt with a stick, silent as always, but present in a way that mattered. Jessie still avoided her mostly, but he'd stopped slamming doors. That counted for something. Caleb had started asking her opinion on things, small things, like whether the beans needed more water or if Sam's cough sounded worse. He was 13 years old and carrying the weight of the world on shoulders that hadn't finished growing. Sarah saw herself in him sometimes, that bone-deep exhaustion that came from trying to be enough for people who needed more than you could give. Cole came and went like the wind. Up before sunrise, back after sunset, too tired to do much more than eat and collapse into bed. He was polite, distant. Kept that wall between them that said employee, not family. Sarah told herself that was fine. That was what she'd signed up for. The garden was coming back slow. She and Rose worked it every morning, turning soil, pulling rocks, coaxing life back into earth that had forgotten how to nurture. Nothing was growing yet, but the dirt was softer now. Ready maybe. Sarah was in the kitchen making lunch when Rose came running in, face flushed and eyes too bright. Miss Sarah, look what I found. The little girl held out her hand. A green shoot, barely an inch long roots still clinging to it. Found it in the garden. It's growing. The garden's growing again. Sarah took the tiny plant, examined it. Her heart sank. Rose, sweetheart, this is a weed. The brightness drained from Rose's face. What? It's a weed. Not from anything your mama planted. Just something that grows wild. Rose's lower lip trembled. But it's green. It's alive. It is. But it's not what we're hoping for. Why not? Why can't weeds count? Because weeds take space from the good plants. They're thieves, Rose. They steal water and sun from the things we actually want growing. Rose snatched the weed back. Mama said every living thing matters, even weeds. Your mama was. You don't get to talk about Mama. You didn't know her. Rose threw the weed on the floor and ran from the kitchen, her footsteps pounding up the stairs. Sarah stood there, holding nothing, listening to a door slam overhead. Well done. 3 weeks and you're still getting it wrong. She picked up the discarded weed. It was already wilting roots exposed and dying, just like everything else in this house that she touched. That night, Rose refused to come down for supper. Sarah brought a plate up and left it outside the girl's door. It sat there untouched until morning. The next day, Rose wouldn't look at her, wouldn't speak to her, just clutched her doll and stared at the wall with those enormous eyes gone flat and distant. Sarah gave her space. What else could she do? 2 days later, Rose started coughing, just a little at first. Throat-clearing coughs that didn't mean much. Sarah noticed, but didn't worry. Kids got coughs. It was part of being a kid. By evening, the cough was worse. Deeper. Wetter. Rose, come here, Sarah said after supper. Let me feel your forehead. Rose turned away. No. Baby, I'm not asking. Come here. You're not my mama. You can't tell me what to do. Cole looked up from his coffee. Rose, do what Miss Sarah says. Rose's face crumpled, but she came. Sarah pressed a hand to her forehead. Warm. Not hot, but warmer than it should be. When did this cough start? Rose pulled away. Don't know. This morning, yesterday? Don't remember. But she did remember. Sarah could see it in how the girl's eyes slid away, how her hands twisted in her dress. Rose was lying, or hiding something. Caleb, when did you notice Rose coughing? Caleb looked uncomfortable. Maybe yesterday, day before. Didn't think much of it. She say anything about feeling poorly? Rose don't say much about anything lately. Not since... He stopped. Glanced at Rose. Not since a few days ago. Since the weed. Since Sarah had dismissed something Rose thought was important. Damn it. Rose, I need you to tell me true. You feel bad. Achy tired. I'm fine. You don't sound fine. Well, I am. Rose's voice went shrill. And you're not a doctor, so you don't know. She ran from the room before Sarah could stop her. Cole set down his coffee. Want me to? No. Let her be for tonight. We'll see how she is in the morning. But morning brought worse. Rose's cough woke Sarah before dawn, harsh barking coughs that rattled through the walls. Sarah threw on her dress and hurried to the room Rose shared with her brothers. The little girl was sitting up in bed, struggling to breathe between coughing fits. Her face was flushed, her eyes glassy. Sarah pressed a hand to her forehead. Hot. Too hot. Tommy, get your paw. Now. Tommy was out of his bunk and running before she finished speaking. Sam, pump fresh water, cold as you can get it. Bring it up in the basin. Sam scrambled to obey, still half asleep, but moving on instinct. Sarah turned to Rose. Baby, I need you to try to slow your breathing. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Can you do that? Rose shook her head, tears streaming. Can't breathe right. I know. Just try, slow and steady. Cole appeared in the doorway, Caleb behind him. Cole took one look at Rose, and his face went gray. How long's she been like this? Just woke to it. But Cole, she's burning up. Cole crossed the room in 2 strides, felt Rose's forehead, her neck checking the glands. When'd the fever start? Don't know. She wouldn't let me near her yesterday. Has been coughing for at least 2 days. God damn it. Cole scooped Rose up. Caleb, saddle a horse, fast as you can. You're riding for Doc Morrison. Pa, that's 12 miles? I know how far it is, go. Caleb ran. Cole carried Rose downstairs, Sarah following. He laid her on the sofa in the main room, grabbed a quilt from the back of a chair. No blankets, Sarah said. She's too hot. We need to cool her down. She's shivering. Fever shakes. Trust me, no blankets. Cole's jaw worked, but he dropped the quilt. What do you need? Cold water, clean cloths, willow bark if you got it. Pantry, top shelf. Grace kept it for headaches. Sam appeared with the basin sloshing water. Sarah grabbed clean cloths from a drawer and started soaking them. Rose, I'm going to put cold cloths on your forehead and neck. It's going to feel bad at first, but it'll help. Okay. Rose nodded weakly, too sick to argue now. Sarah pressed the first cloth to Rose's forehead. The girl gasped at the cold but didn't pull away. Good girl. Just breathe, slow and steady. Cole stood by the window, hands clenched into fists, watching his daughter fight for air. Sarah had seen that look before on Henry's mother's face the night they'd called the doctor and learned Sarah would never carry children. That look that said, I can't fix this and it's killing me. She'll be all right, Sarah said, not sure if she believed it. You don't know that. No, but I know giving up before we start won't help her. Cole looked at her then, really looked. Grace died this way, started with a cough, fever by evening. 3 days later she was gone. Sarah's blood went cold. This isn't influenza. How do you know? Because I don't. But panicking won't help Rose, so right now we treat the fever and wait for Doc Morrison. That's all we can do. Cole nodded stiffly, turned back to the window like he could will Caleb to ride faster through sheer force of wanting. The next hours were a blur. Sarah kept changing cloths, kept trying to get water down Rose's throat, kept checking the fever that wouldn't break. The little girl drifted in and out, sometimes lucid, sometimes rambling nonsense about weeds and gardens, and why didn't Mama come back when she promised. Jessie came downstairs around midday, took one look at Rose, and went white. Is she gonna? No, Sarah said firmly. She's not. She's going to be fine. You said that about Mama. I wasn't here for your Mama. I'm here now, and I won't let this fever take her. You understand me? Jessie stared at her, then nodded and fled back upstairs. Tommy and Sam hovered in doorways, too scared to come close, too scared to leave. Sarah sent them to do chores, anything to keep them busy and out of the way. By afternoon, Rose's fever had climbed higher. She was thrashing now, fighting invisible enemies, crying for her Mama, in a voice that broke Sarah's heart. Grace, Rose sobbed. Mama, where are you? Why won't you come? Cole made a sound like he'd been gut-punched, left the room. Sarah heard the back door slam. She was alone with a delirious child and no idea if she was doing enough. Please, please don't take this little girl. She's already lost so much. Sarah didn't know who she was praying to. Hadn't prayed in years, not since the third midwife had confirmed what she already knew. But she prayed now, whispered desperate bargains into the feverish air. Take me instead. Let me be the worthless one. Just let this child live. Doc Morrison arrived as the sun was setting, Caleb trailing behind him, looking half dead from the hard ride. The doctor was a grizzled man in his 60s, with hands that shook slightly, but eyes that were sharp as winter ice. He examined Rose without speaking, listened to her chest checked, her throat felt the glands in her neck. Took his time while Sarah stood by, hands clenched so tight her nails drew blood from her palms. Finally, Doc Morrison straightened. Scarlet fever. The words landed like stones in still water. You sure? Cole's voice was rough. Sure as I can be without seeing the rash. Should show up in the next day or so if I'm right. Doc Morrison turned to Sarah. You done good so far. Keep doing what you're doing. Cold cloths, willow bark tea, if you can get her to drink it. Keep her cool. Keep her hydrated. That's it. Sarah's voice cracked. That's all we can do. That's all anyone can do. Scarlet fever either breaks or it don't. You got her through the first day. That's something. Is she going to die? Rose's voice was so small, so scared. Everyone turned. Rose's eyes were open clearer than they'd been in hours, watching the doctor with those enormous blue eyes. Doc Morrison knelt beside her. You got a good woman here taking care of you. You do what she says and you got a fighting chance. Understand? Rose nodded weakly. Mama died from fever. Your mama had influenza. This is different. But people die from it. Sometimes. But you're young and strong, and you got folks here who won't let you quit. He stood turned to Cole. Keep everyone else away from her. Scarlet fever spreads like wildfire. Last thing you need is all 5 children sick at once. Cole nodded. How long till we know? Fever should break in 2-3 days if it's going to. If it don't break by day 4. He stopped, looked at Rose. It'll break. Just keep fighting, little one. He left instructions for Sarah how much willow bark, how often to change the cloths, what to watch for. Then he was gone back to town with promises to return in 2 days. Cole stood in the doorway after the doctor left. I should stay. Help. No. Sarah's voice was firm. You got a ranch to run. 4 other children who need you. I'll stay with Rose. For how long? As long as it takes. Sarah, you need to sleep, eat. I'll sleep when she's better. I'll eat when I got time. Right now she needs someone who won't leave. Sarah looked at him direct. Trust me to do this. Please. Cole held her gaze. Something passed between them, understanding maybe. Or just exhaustion giving way to necessity. I'll bring you food, he said finally. Water, whatever you need. Thank you. He left. Sarah heard him gathering the boys, explaining in low tones that they needed to stay away from Rose, that Miss Sarah would take care of their sister, that everything would be fine. Lies maybe, but necessary ones. Sarah turned back to Rose. The little girl was watching her with fever-bright eyes. Am I going to die like Mama? No. You don't know that. You're right. I don't know for certain, but I know this. I'm not leaving this room until you're better. I'm not sleeping. I'm not giving up. I'm staying right here and fighting with you. And Rose. Sarah took the girl's small hand. I'm real good at fighting. Rose's eyes filled with tears. I said mean things to you about the weed. You were right to be mad. I should have celebrated that weed with you. Should have seen that you needed it to mean something. I'm sorry. Nothing to be sorry for. Sarah brushed damp hair from Rose's forehead. Now rest. Save your strength for healing. Rose's eyes drifted closed. Her breathing was labored but steady. Sarah kept the cold cloths coming, kept dripping water onto the girl's cracked lips, kept watch through the long Wyoming night. Somewhere around midnight, Cole appeared with coffee and bread. Set it beside her without speaking, and left. Around 3 a.m, Rose's fever spiked higher. She started convulsing, her small body racked with shakes that terrified Sarah down to her bones. No, no, no! Sarah stripped away the last covering, pressed cold cloths everywhere she could reach. Come on, baby, come back to me. Rose's eyes rolled back in her head. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Sarah felt panic clawing up her throat. She forced it down. Panic wouldn't help. Only action mattered now. She scooped Rose up, carried her to the kitchen, set her in the big wash basin. Sam's water was still cold from the pump. Sarah poured it over Rose's burning skin, soaking them both. Rose gasped and cried out, her eyes focused. I know it's awful. I know. But I need you to fight. You hear me? Fight. It hurts, Rose sobbed. Everything hurts. I know, baby. I know. But you're stronger than this fever. You're stronger than anything that tries to take you. You're Grace Maddox's daughter. You got iron in your spine and fire in your heart. This fever don't stand a chance." Rose clung to her, shivering and crying. Sarah held her in that cold water and prayed to a God she wasn't sure was listening. "Please, please, I'm begging you, don't take this child." Slowly, impossibly, Rose's thrashing calmed. Her breathing evened. The fever didn't break, but it stopped climbing. Sarah lifted her out of the basin, wrapped her in the cleanest towel she could find, carried her back to the sofa, got her settled with fresh cloths and more willow bark tea, coaxed down a throat raw from coughing. "Miss Sarah." Rose's voice was barely audible. "I'm here. Don't leave. Never. I'm staying right here. Promise?" "I promise." Rose's hand found Sarah's, held on weak but certain. "I'm glad you came," Rose whispered. "Even if you're not my mama, I'm glad you're here." Sarah's throat closed up entirely. She couldn't speak, could only squeeze Rose's hand gently and keep watching for any change. Dawn came gray and reluctant. Cole appeared in the doorway, looking like he hadn't slept either. "How is she?" "Fever spiked around 3. Got it back down. She's stable now." "And you?" Sarah looked at him, saw concern there that wasn't just for his daughter. "I'm fine." "You look like hell." "I've looked worse." Cole crossed to the sofa, looked down at his sleeping daughter. "She's still burning up. But not getting worse. That's something. Is it enough?" "It has to be." Cole was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Thank you. For staying. For—" his voice cracked. "For fighting for her. She's worth fighting for. They all are." "Yeah." Cole rubbed his face. "Yeah, they are." He left to wake the other children, get them fed, keep the ranch running. Sarah stayed with Rose through another endless day, changing cloths, dripping water, watching for the rash that would confirm Doc Morrison's diagnosis. By evening, it appeared red spots blooming across Rose's chest and neck like awful flowers. Scarlet fever. Just like the doctor said. Now they could only wait. Sarah sent up prayers she didn't believe in and kept watch through another long night. Rose drifted in and out of consciousness, sometimes lucid, sometimes rambling about gardens and weeds and why the sky was green when everyone knew it should be blue. Around midnight, the second night, Rose woke screaming. "Mama! Mama, don't leave me!" Sarah grabbed her hands. "Rose, I'm here. You're safe." "No. No, she's leaving again. Mama, please." "Rose, look at me. Look at my eyes." Rose's gaze found hers, wild, terrified. "Your mama's gone, baby, but I'm here, and I'm not leaving. You understand I'm not going anywhere. You promise?" "I promise." "But Mama promised too. She said she'd always be here. She lied." The words cut deep. "Your mama didn't lie. She wanted to stay. But sometimes our bodies betray us. Sometimes we don't get a choice." Sarah kept her voice steady, even as her own heart was breaking. "But Rose, I'm choosing. I'm choosing to stay. I'm choosing you. And I don't break my promises." Rose stared at her, tears streaming down her fevered cheeks. "Why? Why what? Why do you care? We're not your children. We're nothing to you." "You're wrong." Sarah's voice was fierce now. "You're wrong, Rose. You're not nothing. You're—" She stopped, swallowed hard. "You're mine. Maybe not by blood, maybe not by law, but you're mine, and I'm yours, and that's all that matters." "You mean it?" "Every word." Rose collapsed back against the cushions, exhausted from the outburst. But something in her face had changed, softened. "Stay," she whispered. "Please stay." "Always." Rose's eyes closed. Her breathing evened out into something closer to sleep than delirium. Sarah slumped in her chair, exhausted beyond measure. She'd been awake for 2 days straight, hadn't eaten more than a few bites of bread, could feel her body starting to rebel, but she stayed. The third morning, Cole found her asleep in the chair beside Rose, still holding the girl's hand. He didn't wake her, just draped a blanket over her shoulders and stood watch while both of them slept. When Sarah woke, the sun was high, and Rose's forehead felt different. Sarah's hand flew to the girl's face, pressed, checked again. Cooler. Not cold. Not normal. But cooler than it had been. "Rose, baby, wake up for me." Rose's eyes fluttered open, clear, focused, really seeing Sarah for the first time in 3 days. "Miss Sarah, I'm here. Am I better?" Sarah checked the fever again. Definitely cooler. The rash was fading. Her breathing was easier. "You're better." The fever broke. Rose started to cry. "I thought I was going to die. Thought I'd see Mama." "Not today. Today you're staying right here with us." "I'm glad." Rose's small hand squeezed Sarah's. "I'm glad I get to stay." Cole appeared in the doorway, took one look at them, and his knees nearly buckled. "The fever broke," Sarah said. "She's going to be okay." Cole crossed the room, pulled Rose into his arms, held her like he'd never let go. "Thank God. Thank God." Over his shoulder, Rose's eyes found Sarah's. "Thank Miss Sarah," Rose said. "She's the one who saved me." Cole looked at Sarah. His eyes were wet. "Thank you," he said, voice cracking. I don't have words for thank you." Sarah nodded. Couldn't speak. Too tired, too relieved, too everything. The other children came thundering down the stairs, had heard their father's voice and needed to see for themselves. They crowded around the sofa, all talking at once, Sam crying, Jesse trying to act tough, but failing Tommy, just staring at his sister like she was a miracle. Caleb stood back, looking at Sarah. "You stayed with her," he said, "all night for 3 days." "Of course I did. Mama would have done the same." It was the highest compliment he could give. Sarah felt it land in her chest, warm and unexpected. "Your mama raised you right," Sarah said. "All of you." For the first time since she'd arrived, the children didn't argue. Doc Morrison came that evening, examined Rose, declared her on the mend, looked at Sarah with something like respect. "You saved her life. Know that. Just did what needed doing." Most folks would have given up after day 2. Fever that high that long, most folks would have called it done. He packed up his bag. "You got a gift, girl. Don't waste it." After he left, Cole made Sarah eat. Forced food down her throat even though she wasn't hungry. Made her drink water. Made her promise to sleep. "Can't," Sarah said. "Rose might need. I'll watch her tonight. You need rest." "But that's not a request, Sarah. You're no good to anyone dead on your feet. Go upstairs. Sleep. I'll wake you if anything changes." Sarah wanted to argue, but her body betrayed her. She could barely keep her eyes open. "Promise you'll wake me." "Promise." Sarah climbed the stairs on legs that felt like water. Made it to her small room. Fell onto the bed fully clothed. Slept for 14 hours straight. When she woke, the house was quiet. Afternoon sun slanted through her window. For a moment, she panicked Rose. I left Rose. Then she heard voices downstairs. Children's voices. Normal voices. Not crying. Not scared. Living. Sarah made her way down. Found all 5 children around the table, eating stew that smelled like Cole had made it heavy on salt, light on anything else but hot and filling. Rose sat wrapped in quilts, pale but smiling, telling her brothers about the fever dreams she'd had. They looked up when Sarah appeared. "You're awake." Sam bounded to her. "Pa said to let you sleep forever and ever." "Not forever, just until I woke up." Sarah's eyes found Rose. "How you feeling?" "Tired, weak, but better." Rose held out her hand. "Will you sit with me?" Sarah crossed to her, took the small hand, sat. The children went back to their meal, and for the first time since Sarah had arrived at Broken Creek Ranch, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she belonged here. Not as Grace's replacement. Not as hired help. But as something else. Something that didn't have a name yet, but felt real and solid and worth keeping. Cole appeared in the doorway carrying firewood. Stopped when he saw Sarah. "You slept." "You were right. I needed it." "You hungry?" "There's stew such as it is." "I'm hungry." Cole served her a bowl. The stew was terrible, but Sarah ate every bite. And when Rose's hand found hers under the table and squeezed gently, Sarah squeezed back. "We're going to be okay," she thought. "All of us. We're going to be okay." The week after Rose's fever broke, something shifted in the house. Small things at first. Jessie stopped glaring when Sarah entered a room. Sam started following her around, asking if she needed help with chores. Tommy left a wildflower on her pillow one morning, roots still clinging to the stem dirt scattered across the quilt. Caleb was different too. He'd come find her in the kitchen after working with Cole all day, lean against the doorframe and just talk. About the ranch. About his brothers. About how scared he'd been when Rose got sick. "Thought I was gonna lose her like we lost Mama," he said one evening, voice rough. "Thought God was taking everyone. But he didn't. Because of you." Caleb met her eyes. "You saved her. Doc Morrison said so." "I just did what anyone would." "No." Caleb's voice was firm. "Anyone else would have given up, but you didn't. You stayed." He was quiet for a moment. "Mama would have liked you, I think." The words landed soft, but hit hard. "Thank you," Sarah managed. Caleb nodded and disappeared back outside, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts, and the realization that somehow, impossibly, she was becoming part of this family. Rose was the most changed. She followed Sarah everywhere. Now small hand always reaching for Sarah's skirt, her sleeve, her fingers. At night she'd appear in Sarah's doorway, asking if she could sleep in Sarah's bed, because the nightmares were bad and Sarah made them go away. Sarah never refused. They'd lie there in the dark, Rose's small body curled against Sarah's side, and Sarah would stroke the girl's hair and hum songs her grandmother had taught her. Sometimes Rose would talk about Grace, about the garden, about how she was glad Sarah came, even if it meant Mama was really never coming back. "Does that make me bad?" Rose whispered one night. "That I'm glad you're here." "No, baby. That makes you human." "But I miss Mama so much." "I know, and you always will. But missing her and loving me, those things can live together. Your heart's big enough for both." Rose was quiet for a long time. Then, "Miss Sarah." "Yeah. Can I call you Mama?" Sarah's breath caught. "Rose. Not instead of my real Mama. Just like a second Mama. The Mama who's here now." Rose turned to look at her in the darkness. "Is that okay?" Sarah's throat was too tight to speak. She nodded. "Okay," Rose said, satisfied. "Good night, Mama." "Good night, baby girl." Rose fell asleep within minutes. Sarah lay awake for hours, holding a child who'd chosen her, feeling something in her chest crack open and bleed and heal all at once. The next morning, Rose called her Mama at breakfast. The other children looked up startled. Sarah waited for someone to object. Instead, Sam said, "Can I call you that too?" "If you want." "I want," Sam grinned. "Mama Sarah, like you're ours but different from the Mama we had before." "Works for me," Jessie said, surprising everyone. "Long as everyone knows she's not replacing our real Ma." "Never," Sarah said firmly. "Your Mama Grace, she's always your Mama. You're our Mama too," Caleb finished. "Different kind maybe, but ours." Tommy didn't say anything. But later that day, Sarah found him in the garden. He was digging a hole with his hands dirt under his fingernails, face serious. "What are you planting?" Sarah asked. Tommy pulled something from his pocket. A seed Sarah didn't know what kind. Found it in Mama Grace's seed box, in the shed. His voice was soft. Been saving it. Thought maybe if you plant it, it'll grow, since you're good at making dead things live. He pressed the seed into Sarah's palm. It was warm from being in his pocket, small and impossibly fragile. Will you plant it? Tommy asked. Please. Sarah knelt in the dirt beside him. Together they buried the seed, covered it with earth, patted it down gentle. Now we wait, Sarah said. How long? Don't know. Plants take their own time. Tommy nodded. Then so quiet, she almost missed it. Thank you for staying. When Rose was sick. Thank you for not leaving us. Oh, Tommy. Sarah pulled him close. He came willingly, pressing his face against her shoulder. I'm not going anywhere. You're stuck with me now. He held on for a long moment, then pulled back, wiping his eyes quick. Good, he said. That's good. He ran off before Sarah could respond, but she stayed kneeling in the garden, holding the space where they'd planted hope together. Cole found her there an hour later. She was still on her knees, hands in the dirt, staring at nothing. Sarah, she looked up. Sorry, was just thinking. About what? About how strange life is. 2 months ago, I was standing on an auction block being sold for $1. Now I'm kneeling in a dead garden with 5 children calling me Mama. She laughed, but it came out rough. How does that happen? Cole was quiet for a long moment. Then he knelt beside her in the dirt. You earned it, he said. Every bit of it. Those children, they don't give their trust easy, especially not after losing Grace. But you fought for them. You stayed when things got hard. You loved them when they tried their damnedest to make you leave. I didn't have a choice. Yes, you did. You could have walked away a dozen times. Could have gone back to Copper Ridge, found work somewhere else, built a different life. Cole's voice dropped lower. But you didn't. You stayed. And Sarah, that means something. Sarah met his eyes. Something had changed there too. The distance he'd kept between them had narrowed. The children calling me Mama, she said carefully. That doesn't bother you. Why would it? Because Grace was their mama. Because I can't replace her. No one's asking you to. Cole reached out, brushed dirt from her cheek with his thumb. The touch was gentle, brief, but it burned. Grace was their first mama. You're their second. There's room for both. His hand dropped, but Sarah could still feel where he'd touched her. I need to tell you something, Cole said. Been meaning to for a while now, just couldn't find the right time. Sarah's heart started beating faster. What? When I bought you in that square, when I paid that $1, I told myself it was practical. I needed help with the house and the children. That was all. He looked at his hands. But that wasn't the whole truth. Cole, let me finish, please. He took a breath. I saw you standing there. Saw your father selling you like cattle. Saw every man in that town deciding you were worthless. And something in me, something broke open. Because I knew what it was like to be measured and found wanting. You. After Grace died, I couldn't do anything right. Couldn't comfort my children. Couldn't keep the house standing. Couldn't even feed them proper. Every person in Copper Ridge looked at me with pity, like I was a failure. His jaw worked. I hated it. That look, that judgment. Sarah understood. God, did she understand? When I saw you on that platform, Cole continued, I saw myself. Someone the world had given up on. And I thought if I could give you a chance, maybe that meant I deserved a chance too. Maybe we could both prove everyone wrong. And have we? Cole looked at her direct. You have. You've done more than prove them wrong, Sarah. You've... He stopped, swallowed hard. You've given my children their lives back. You've given this house a heartbeat again. And you've... What? You've made me believe in things I thought I'd lost forever." The air between them felt charged, dangerous. Sarah knew she should step back, keep that line between employee and something more. But she didn't want to. "What things?" she asked. Cole's hand found hers. His palm was rough, calloused, warm. "Hope," he said simply. "And maybe the possibility of something more than just surviving." Sarah's breath caught. "Cole, I don't know if—" "I'm not asking for anything," he said quickly. "Not yet. Not until you're ready. But I needed you to know. Needed you to understand that you're not just help anymore. You're—" "What?" "You're home," he finished. "This place. These children, me. We're your home now. If you want us." Sarah looked at their joined hands, thought about the last 2 months, thought about Rose calling her mama and Tommy's seed in the garden, and Caleb's exhausted relief, and Jesse's slow thawing, and Sam's endless questions. Thought about standing in that town square believing she was worth nothing. And now this man, this good, broken, struggling man telling her she was worth everything. "I want you," she said. "All of you. But Cole, I need to be honest. I don't know how to be a wife. My marriage to Henry wasn't good. And I can't give you children. Can't give you heirs or—" "Stop." Cole's voice was firm. "I got 5 children. Don't need more. And as for being a wife, Sarah, you've been more of a partner to me these past 2 months than most married folks manage in years." But nothing. I know what I'm asking. Know what I'm getting. And I want it anyway." He brought her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles gentle. "I want you anyway." Sarah felt tears burning her eyes. "I'm scared." "Me too. What if I fail? What if I can't be what you need?" "You already are what I need. You and those 5 children upstairs, you're exactly what I need." Cole's thumb stroked across her knuckles. "Now the question is, am I what you need?" Sarah looked at him. Really looked. Saw the gray in his hair that had come too early. Saw the lines around his eyes from squinting into sun and grief. Saw the scars on his hands from years of hard work. Saw the fear in his eyes that maybe she'd say no. Saw a man who'd paid $1 for her and given her a world in return. "Yes," she said. "You're exactly what I need." Cole pulled her close. The kiss was soft, tentative, like they were both afraid of breaking something fragile. Sarah's hands fisted in his shirt, holding on, afraid to let go. When they broke apart, Cole pressed his forehead to hers. "Marry me," he said. "Not because it's practical or convenient. Not because the children need a mother, though they do. Marry me because I'm asking. Because I want you as my wife. Because I—" He stopped, started again. "Because I'm falling in love with you, Sarah. And I hope maybe you feel the same." Sarah's heart was hammering so hard she could barely breathe. "I do. Feel the same. But Cole—" "But what?" "People in town. They'll talk. They'll say you married the woman you bought for $1. They'll say I trapped you, or—" "Let them talk." Cole's voice was fierce now. "Let the whole damn territory talk. I don't care what they think. Only thing that matters is what's inside this house. What's in this family. And Sarah, you're already part of this family. Marriage just makes it official. The children already call you mama, already love you, already chose you." He cupped her face in his hands. "So the only person who needs to choose now is you. Will you marry me?" Sarah thought about the auction block, about her father's betrayal, about 4 years of marriage to a man who'd blamed her for not giving him children, about standing in a dead garden thinking she'd never amount to anything. And then she thought about Rose's small hand in hers, about Caleb's tired relief, about Tommy's seed planted in hope, about Sam's questions and Jesse's slow trust, and 5 children who'd chosen her back. Thought about Cole's winter sky eyes looking at her like she was worth something. Worth everything. Yes, she said. Yes, I'll marry you. Cole kissed her again, deeper this time, less gentle, like he was claiming her and being claimed all at once. When they broke apart, Sarah was breathless and dizzy and more terrified than she'd ever been, and more certain. When? She asked. Soon as we can arrange it. Next week maybe. Father O'Malley can come out from town. No. Sarah's voice was firm. Not in town. I can't go back there. Not yet. Here then. We'll do it here, on the ranch. Just us and the children and whoever wants to witness. Your ranch hands. They'll be happy for us. They've seen what you've done for this place, how you've brought life back. Cole smiled. They call you the miracle woman. Didn't know if you knew. Sarah laughed. I'm no miracle. You are to us. They stood together in the garden, hands linked, making plans. A week from Saturday. Simple ceremony. Cole would ride to town tomorrow to tell Father O'Malley. They'd have a small supper after. Nothing fancy. Just family. Just home. Sarah was helping with the lunch dishes later, when Rose appeared at her elbow. Mama, Sarah? Yeah, baby. Pa said you're getting married. To him. Is that true? Sarah knelt down to Rose's level. It is. How do you feel about that? Rose chewed her lip, thinking hard. Will you leave us wives sometimes leave? No. I'm not going anywhere. This is my home. You're my family. Getting married to your pa, that just means I'm family official. On paper. In the law. So you'll stay forever. Forever, Sarah promised. Rose threw her arms around Sarah's neck. Good. Because I love you. I love you too, baby girl. The other children took the news with varying degrees of enthusiasm. Sam was thrilled, talked about how there'd be a party, and would there be cake, and could he wear his Sunday clothes. Caleb was quietly pleased, nodded, and said, About time, like he'd seen it coming. Tommy just smiled, that rare, soft smile that lit his whole face. Jesse was harder to read. He listened to Cole explain, face carefully blank. Then he looked at Sarah. You really want to marry him? This isn't... He's not making you, is he? No one's making me do anything. I want this. Because you love him, or because you got nowhere else to go? The question was harsh, but fair. Sarah respected him for asking it. Both, maybe, at first, but now... She met Jesse's eyes. Now, because I love him. And I love all of you. And I can't imagine being anywhere else. Jesse studied her, then nodded once. Okay, good. Because if you're going to be our mama for real, you should want to be. Not just need to be. I want to be, Sarah said firmly. I choose this. Choose all of you. Every single day. Even when we're awful, especially then. Jesse almost smiled. Almost. Okay then, I guess welcome to the family. Official-like. Thank you, Jesse. He shrugged and left, but Sarah saw the way his shoulders relaxed. The way some tension he'd been carrying finally let go. The week passed in a blur. Cole rode to town, came back with Father O'Malley's promise to come Saturday. The ranch hands, 3 rough men who worked the cattle and kept the place running, heard the news and spent 3 days cleaning the barn and the yard like they were preparing for a president's visit. Boss hasn't been happy since Miss Grace passed, the oldest one told Sarah. Name was Walter Face, like cracked leather, hands like tree roots. You brought him back to life. We're grateful for that. I didn't do anything special. You stayed. That's special enough. Sarah baked bread until her arms ached. The children helped, even Jesse, who turned out to have a good hand with dough. They made enough to feed everyone twice over. Rose picked wildflowers from the field beyond the garden, arranged them in jars and tin cups. For pretty, she explained. Weddings need pretty. Caleb killed and plucked 2 chickens, made a stew that was actually edible. Tommy set the table with more care than Sarah had ever seen him take. Sam practiced his best behavior, which lasted approximately 10 minutes before he went back to being his chaotic self. On Friday night, Sarah lay in bed staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Tomorrow, she'd be a wife again. Tomorrow, she'd legally belong to this family, instead of just living among them. Tomorrow, everything would change. Or maybe nothing would change. Maybe she'd just keep being what she already was, mother to 5 children, partner to a good man-woman, with dirt under her fingernails and hope growing in a garden. A knock at her door. "Sarah, you awake?" Cole's voice. "Come in." He entered, still dressed, looking as sleepless as she felt. "Can't stop thinking." "Me either." "You nervous?" "Terrified." Cole sat on the edge of her bed. "Me too." "What if I'm a terrible wife? What if I'm a terrible husband? You already are a good husband. You were good to Grace. Grace and I, we were young when we married. Grew up together. It was easy." Cole's voice went rough. "This is different. Harder. We're both carrying ghosts. Think they'll mind the ghosts?" "No, I think Grace would like you. Think she'd be glad the children have someone who fights for them like you do." He was quiet. "Think your Henry would be glad too. Glad you found someone who sees your worth." Sarah laughed bitterly. "Henry never saw my worth, only saw what I couldn't give him. Then he was a fool. He was scared, of his mother mostly, of disappointing her, of not having sons to carry on the family name." Sarah shook her head. "I don't blame him anymore. Just feel sad for both of us, for what we could have been if we'd been braver." Cole took her hand. "We're being brave now. That counts for something." "Does it?" "It has to." They sat in comfortable silence, hands linked. Outside, the Wyoming night sang its usual song, crickets and coyotes and wind through sage. "Cole." "Yeah." "Thank you. For seeing me. For choosing me. For—" her voice cracked. "For making me believe I was worth more than $1. Sarah." Cole turned to face her. "You were always worth more. I just paid what the market would bear." She laughed despite the tears. "That's terrible." "It's true." He kissed her forehead gentle. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow's a big day." "Will you stay? Just until I fall asleep?" Cole stretched out beside her, fully clothed on top of the covers. Sarah curled against his side, feeling his warmth, his solidity, his realness. "Tell me about Grace," she said softly. "I want to know her." So Cole talked. Told stories about the woman he'd loved first. About how Grace had laughed too loud and burned every meal the first year of marriage and sang while she gardened and loved her children with a fierceness that still echoed through the house. "She was good," Cole said. "All the way through. Good in a way I'm not sure I deserved. She was lucky to have you too." "Maybe. But Sarah, what we had, Grace and me, it was good, but it was also young, built on not much more than attraction and convenience and being in the right place at the right time." He was quiet. "What you and I have, it's different, built on harder things, loss and survival and choosing each other when we didn't have to. Is that better or worse? Don't know yet, but it feels—" He searched for words. "Feels real in a way nothing else has in a long time." Sarah pressed her face against his shoulder, breathed him in sweat and leather and earth and home. "I'm glad you paid that $1, she whispered. "Best dollar I ever spent." Sarah fell asleep with Cole's arm around her and hope blooming in her chest like Tommy's seed in the garden, small and fragile but growing toward light. Saturday dawned clear and hot. Sarah woke to Rose climbing into bed with her chattering about the wedding and how Sarah needed to wear the blue dress because it was prettiest. And did Sarah know that married people kissed? And would she kiss Pa in front of everyone? "Probably," Sarah said, still half asleep. "Good, because Pa needs more kissing. He's been sad too long." Out of the mouths of children. Sarah bathed in cold water hauled from the creek. washed her hair, and let Rose brush it dry in the sun. Put on the blue dress, the one that had been Grace's, let out to fit Sarah's narrower frame. "You look like a real mama now," Rose declared. "I've been a real mama." "I know, but now you look like one too." Father O'Malley arrived at noon in a wagon, sweating through his cassock, mopping his face with a handkerchief. He was a round man with kind eyes and a voice made for sermons. "Sarah Sullivan," he said, clasping her hands. "Heard you've worked miracles out here." "Just did what needed doing." "That's what miracles are, child. Doing what needs doing when everyone else has quit." He looked around at the cleaned yard, the children in their Sunday clothes, Cole standing nervous by the barn. "This is good. This is right. God's hand is in this." Sarah wasn't sure she believed in God's hand anymore, but she believed in children calling her mama and a man who'd seen worth where others saw nothing. That was miracle enough. They gathered under a cottonwood tree by the creek, the only spot of real shade on the property. Father O'Malley stood with his worn Bible. Cole stood beside Sarah, clean-shaven and wearing clothes Sarah had mended just that morning. The 5 children clustered close. The 3 ranch hands stood at a respectful distance, hats in hands. "Dearly beloved," Father O'Malley began. Sarah barely heard the words. She was too focused on Cole's hand holding hers, too focused on Rose pressing against her side, too focused on the fact that she was standing here at all, alive, wanted, chosen. "Do you, Cole Maddox, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." "Do you, Sarah Sullivan, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Sarah looked at Cole, at his winter sky eyes and scarred hands and the hope written across his face. "I do," she said. "Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Cole, you may kiss your bride." Cole pulled her close. The kiss was gentle, brief, aware of the children watching. But it was real. It was theirs. When they broke apart, Rose was crying happy tears. Sam was cheering. Caleb was grinning wide. Tommy was clapping silent. And Jesse was smiling. Really smiling. "Welcome to the family, Mama," he said. "For real this time." And Sarah standing under a cottonwood tree in the Wyoming heat, with 5 children and a husband and a life she'd built from nothing, Sarah felt like she'd finally come home. The wedding supper stretched into evening laughter, echoing off the barn walls, while the children ran wild, and the ranch hands told stories that got more outrageous with each telling. Sarah sat beside Cole at the head of the makeshift table, his hand resting on her knee under the worn tablecloth, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not happiness exactly, that felt too big, too fragile to claim yet. But peace. The kind that came from knowing you were exactly where you were supposed to be. Father O'Malley left before sunset, promising to file the marriage papers in town and keep the gossips at bay as best he could. "Though I can't work miracles with Judith Brennan," he said, eyes twinkling. "That woman's tongue could strip paint." "Let her talk," Cole said, arm sliding around Sarah's waist. "Got nothing to hide." After the priest left, after the children were finally corralled into bed, after the ranch hands drifted back to the bunkhouse, Sarah and Cole stood alone in the kitchen washing dishes in comfortable silence. "You're my wife now," Cole said, like he was testing the words. "I am. Feels different than I thought it would." "Good different or bad different?" "Just different." He dried a plate, set it carefully in the cupboard. "Grace and I, we had a wedding in town. Big celebration. Half of Copper Ridge showed up. Music and dancing and carrying on till midnight." "You missed that?" "No." Cole turned to face her. This was better, quieter, more real somehow. Sarah understood. Her wedding to Henry had been a spectacle too. His mother insisted on it, wanted everyone to see her son marrying a respectable girl. Sarah had worn white and smiled till her face hurt and pretended she wasn't terrified of the wedding night to come. This had been nothing like that. This had been honest. "Cole," Sarah set down the dish she was washing. "Tonight, do you want..." I mean, are you expecting? No. His answer was immediate. Not until you're ready. We can take our time with that. Relief flooded through her. Thank you. Sarah. I didn't marry you for betting. Married you because you're already my partner in everything that matters. He touched her cheek gentle. Everything else can come when it comes. No rush. She kissed him, then soft and grateful. When they broke apart, Cole smiled. Though I wouldn't object to you sleeping in my room, just sleeping. Having you close, that'd be nice. Yeah, Sarah agreed. That'd be nice. They climbed the stairs together. Sarah changed in her small room now, just storage, she supposed, and crossed the hall to Cole's room. Their room. It was bigger than hers, with a bed that could fit two and a window overlooking the front yard. Grace's things were mostly gone. Cole had packed them away months ago, unable to bear looking at them. But traces remained: a hair ribbon on the dresser, a shawl hung on a peg, the faint scent of lavender that no amount of airing out could quite erase. If this is too strange, Cole started. It's not. Sarah climbed into bed, into the space that had been Grace's. She was here first. I'm not trying to erase that. Cole slid in beside her. They lay there in the dark, not touching, both staring at the ceiling. I used to lie here, Cole said quietly, after she died. Couldn't sleep, just stared at the dark, and wondered how I was supposed to keep breathing when she couldn't. What changed? You showed up. Gave me a reason to keep breathing that wasn't just obligation. He rolled toward her. Gave me hope that maybe life could be more than just surviving. Sarah turned to facing him. I was so angry at the world when I stood on that auction block. Angry at God, at my father, at Henry for dying and leaving me alone. At myself most of all for being broken. You're not broken. I felt broken, feel broken still sometimes. She took a shaky breath. But then Rose calls me Mama, and Tommy plants seeds with me, and Caleb asks my opinion, and Jesse smiles, and Sam asks his endless questions, and I think maybe broken things can still be useful. Maybe being broken just means there's more room to let people in. Cole pulled her close. She fit against him like she'd been made for that exact space. We're quite a pair, he murmured into her hair. 2 broken people trying to raise 5 broken children. Think we'll manage? Already are. They fell asleep like that, holding each other in the dark, 2 people who'd lost everything, finding everything again in each other. Sarah woke to screaming. She bolted upright, heart hammering. Beside her, Cole was already moving, grabbing pants and running for the door. The screaming was coming from the children's room. Sarah threw on a robe and followed. Found Cole in the hallway trying to calm a hysterical Rose while the boys stood in their doorway looking terrified. Mama Grace, don't leave me again. Rose was sobbing, fighting against Cole's hold, eyes wild and unseeing. Rose, baby, wake up. Cole's voice was strained. You're dreaming. Wake up. But Rose couldn't wake up. She was trapped somewhere between sleep and memory, living through her mother's death again. Sarah stepped forward. Let me. Cole hesitated, then released Rose into Sarah's arms. The little girl fought for a moment, then suddenly went still. Mama. Her voice was small, confused. I'm here, baby. I'm right here. I dreamed you died, like Mama Grace died. I couldn't stop it. I'm not dying. I'm staying right here with you. Sarah stroked Rose's hair. But Rose, sometimes, we're going to remember Mama Grace. Sometimes it's going to hurt. That's okay. We're allowed to hurt. But I don't want to hurt anymore. I know, baby. I know. Rose cried against Sarah's shoulder while the boys slowly returned to their beds, and Cole stood in the hallway looking gutted. When Rose finally exhausted herself back to sleep, Sarah carried her to the big bed, to their bed, and tucked her in, beside where Sarah had been sleeping. She can stay here tonight, Sarah told Cole. She needs to know we're both here. Cole nodded, climbed back into bed with his daughter between them. They lay there listening to Rose's breathing, even out, watching her small chest rise and fall. She was doing better, Cole said. I thought maybe she was healing. She is healing, but healing's not a straight line. Sometimes we backslide. Sometimes the grief comes back hard. Sarah reached across Rose to touch Cole's hand. We just have to ride it out. How long? Long as it takes. Cole's fingers threaded through hers. They fell back asleep like that rose between them, hands linked across her small body, a family finding its shape in the dark. The nightmares continued for a week. Every night Rose would wake screaming for Grace. Every night Sarah would calm her, hold her, promise she wasn't leaving. Every night Cole would lie there helpless, watching his daughter relive trauma he couldn't fix. On the 8th night, Rose woke crying, but not screaming. Sarah heard her from across the hall and came immediately. "Mama, Sarah." Rose's voice was thick with tears. "I had the bad dream again. Come here, baby." Rose climbed into Sarah's arms. But this time she didn't fight, didn't call for Grace, just held on and cried until the tears ran dry. "I miss her so much," Rose whispered. "Does that make you sad, that I still miss her?" "No, honey. It makes me glad." "Really? Really, your mama Grace, she deserves to be missed, deserves to be remembered, and I'm honored I get to be here while you do that remembering." Rose pulled back to look at her. "You mean it?" "Every word. I'm not here to replace your mama Rose. I'm here to be a different kind of mama, the kind who's here now. But Grace, she's your first mama, you're always mama, and that's how it should be." Rose thought about this. Then, "Can I have both? Can I love you and miss her at the same time?" "Yes, your heart's big enough for both." "Okay." Rose snuggled back against Sarah. "That's good. Because I love you a lot, but I miss her a lot too." "I know, baby. And both those things are true and right, and exactly how it should be." Rose fell asleep in Sarah's arms. This time, when Sarah carried her back to bed, Rose didn't wake, didn't cry out, just curled into her pillow and slept peaceful through till morning. The nightmares came less after that. Once or twice a week instead of every night. Then once a week. Then hardly at all. Sarah marked the passage of time in other ways too. In how Jesse started staying in the kitchen after supper talking about his day instead of running off. In how Caleb stopped trying to do everything himself and started asking for help when he needed it. In how Tommy's silences felt comfortable instead of concerning. In how Sam's questions got more complex, not just why, but how, and what if. In how Cole started touching her more. Not sexual, though there was heat building between them that they both felt, but casual touches. His hand on her back when they passed each other. His fingers brushing hers when they worked side by side. His lips on her forehead when he left for work in the morning. Small things that added up to intimacy. 3 months after the wedding, Sarah was in the garden when she saw it. A green shoot pushing through the hard-packed earth, right where she and Tommy had planted that mystery seed. "Tommy," Sarah called. "Tommy, come quick." The boy came running, face worried. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Look." She pointed to the tiny plant. Tommy dropped to his knees, staring. "It grew," he breathed. "It actually grew." It did. But everything else we planted, all those other seeds, and nothing came up. I thought maybe the garden was too dead. Maybe this seed was just more stubborn than the others. Sarah knelt beside him. Or maybe it needed more time. Not everything grows at the same speed. Tommy reached out, touched the green shoot with one finger. Gentle, reverent. "What is it?" he asked. "Don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see what it becomes." Mama Grace used to say that about us. That we were all seeds growing at different speeds. His voice went soft. "Think she'd be happy that we planted something in her garden. I think she'd be proud of you for trying. For not giving up on it." Tommy was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I'm glad you came, Mama Sarah. I know I don't say it much, but I am. I'm glad I came too, Tommy." They sat together in the garden watching that single impossible plant reach toward the sun. It wasn't much, just one green thing in a field of brown. But it was hope. It was possibility. It was enough. That night at supper, Tommy announced the plant's arrival with the gravity of someone declaring war. The other children wanted to see immediately. They all trooped out to the garden, circling the tiny shoot like it was a miracle. "What if it's something good?" Sam asked. "Like tomatoes or strawberries?" "Could be a weed," Jesse pointed out. "Don't care if it's a weed," Rose declared. "It's alive. That's what matters." "Rose is right," Caleb said. "Living things are better than dead things, even weeds." Sarah felt Cole's arm slide around her waist. They stood together watching their children marvel over a single plant, and Sarah thought about weeds and worth, and how she'd come to this place thinking she was worthless. And now look. Now she was standing in a garden that was coming back to life, with 5 children who called her mama, and a husband who looked at her like she'd hung the moon. "What are you thinking?" Cole murmured. "That I'm happy. Really, truly happy." "Yeah." His voice held a smile. "Yeah. Good. Because I got something to tell you." Sarah turned to face him. His expression was nervous, excited, scared. "What?" "I sent word to town last week. To your brother Sean." Sarah's breath caught. "You what?" "Invited him to visit. Thought maybe you'd want to see him. Let him see what you've built here." Tears sprang to Sarah's eyes. "Cole, if you don't want him here, I'll send word again. Tell him not to come. But Sarah, he's your family, your blood. And I thought—" Sarah kissed him. Hard, grateful, full of love for this man who thought of things like this. "When?" she asked when they broke apart. "Next Sunday, if that's all right." "It's more than all right. It's thank you." Sean arrived on Sunday morning riding a horse he'd clearly borrowed and wearing clothes he'd clearly outgrown. At 16, he was all gangly limbs and Adam's apple still growing into himself. Sarah met him in the yard. For a moment they just stared at each other. Then Sean slid off his horse and crushed her in a hug so fierce it drove the air from her lungs. "I'm sorry," he said into her shoulder. "I'm so sorry I didn't stop Pa. Should have done something, anything, but I was scared and—" "Sean, stop. You were 15. What could you have done? Something, anything." He pulled back, eyes red. "I've thought about it every day since. How I let him sell you like cattle. How I just stood there. And I've thought about you every day too. Wondered if you were all right. If Pa was—" She stopped. "Is he still drinking?" "Worse than ever. Ma barely speaks anymore. Just sits and stares." Sean's face was grim. "The house, it's falling apart. Nobody cares enough to fix it. I'm sorry." "Don't be. You got out. That's what matters." He looked past her to where the children were peering from the porch. "Those your kids?" "They are now." Sean's face split into a grin. "Look at you. Went from being sold for $1 to having 5 kids and a husband. How'd you manage that?" "Showed up every day. Didn't quit. Loved them even when they tried not to love me back. That's all it took. That was everything it took." The children warmed to Sean quickly. He was young enough to remember being a kid, old enough to treat them like real people. He taught Sam how to skip stones in the creek. Helped Jesse chop firewood. Listened to Tommy talk about the garden. Let Rose show him her doll collection. Asked Caleb about ranch work, like his opinion mattered. "Your brother's good with them," Cole said, watching from the porch. "He helped raise them once, me I mean, before everything went bad." Sarah leaned against the porch rail. "Think he'd want to stay here?" "Maybe. If we asked. If we—" She looked at Cole. "We could use another hand with the ranch. And he's clearly not happy in town." "You want your brother living here?" "I want family around me. Real family. People who chose to stay instead of people who had to stay." Sarah took Cole's hand. Is that too much to ask? It's not too much. Cole squeezed her fingers. I'll talk to him. Sean said yes before Cole even finished asking. You mean it? You'd let me stay. If you pull your weight. Works hard and the pay ain't much. Don't care about pay, just want to be somewhere I'm wanted. You're wanted, Sarah said. Your family. Sean moved into the bunkhouse with the ranch hands the next day. He worked harder than anyone expected up before dawn, working till dark, learning everything Walter and the other hands could teach him about cattle and horses and surviving Wyoming winters. The children loved having an uncle around. Sam followed him everywhere. Jesse started smiling more. Even Caleb relaxed some, no longer feeling like he had to be the only young man in the house. Your brother's good people, Cole said one night as they lay in bed. Reminds me of you. Got that same stubborn streak. Sullivan family trait, Sarah said. We don't know when to quit. Thank God for that. Cole pulled her closer. Because if you'd quit on us, I wouldn't have, couldn't have. I know, but I'm grateful anyway. They'd been married 4 months now. The casual touches had become more deliberate. The goodnight kisses lasted longer. The space between them in bed had disappeared entirely, but they still hadn't. Sarah didn't know if Cole was waiting for her to make the first move, or if he was nervous, or if he simply didn't want her that way. The uncertainty was starting to gnaw at her. Cole? Do you? She stopped, started again. Are you attracted to me? He went still. What? We've been married 4 months and we haven't. I don't know if you're waiting for me or if you don't want. Cole rolled on top of her, cutting off her words with a kiss that was nothing like the gentle ones they'd shared before. This was hungry, desperate, full of months of wanting. When he broke away, they were both breathing hard. Does that answer your question? His voice was rough. Why haven't you? Because I didn't want to push. Because your first marriage was... You said it wasn't good. I didn't want to make you feel like you owed me something. I don't feel like I owe you. I want... Sarah's cheeks burned. I want this. Want you. Have wanted you for weeks now. Sarah. Cole's forehead dropped to hers. You're killing me. So do something about it. He did. And Sarah learned that betting didn't have to be duty or obligation or something to endure. It could be choice, connection, joy. Afterwards, lying tangled together in sheets that smelled like them both, Cole kissed her shoulder and said, I love you. Should have said it before, but I'm saying it now. I love you, Sarah Maddox. Sarah's chest felt too full to contain everything she was feeling. I love you too. Yeah. Since that first day in the garden, when you told me Rose's symptoms. Since you trusted me with her life. Since... She turned in his arms. Since I realized you saw me as a person, and not just a womb that didn't work. You're so much more than that. More than I deserve. We deserve each other, Sarah corrected. We're both broken people who got lucky enough to find each other. They fell asleep wrapped around each other, and Sarah dreamed of gardens growing, and children laughing, and a life she'd built from nothing but stubbornness and love. Summer passed into fall. The mystery plant in the garden finally revealed itself, a tomato plant like Grace used to grow. It produced 3 perfect tomatoes that Sarah served sliced at supper, like they were treasure. Mama Grace is still here, Rose said, holding her tomato slice like communion. She's in the garden, in the plant, watching us. Maybe she is, Sarah agreed. Maybe she's proud of you for helping grow it. Winter came hard and early. The first snow fell in October, blanketing the ranch in white. The children had never seen Sarah in snow before she played with them like a child herself, making snow angels and having snowball fights until they were all soaked and shivering. Inside all of you, Cole called from the porch, before you catch your deaths. They trooped in tracking snow and laughter. Sarah made hot chocolate while Cole built up the fire. The children huddled close to the flames, cheeks, pink eyes bright. Tell us about when you were little Mama Sarah, Sam demanded. So Sarah told them about her grandmother who'd taught her to be strong like mountains, about learning to read by candlelight, about the first time she'd seen snow and thought the sky was falling. The children hung on every word. Even Caleb, who usually pretended he was too old for stories. Later, after the children were in bed, Sarah and Cole sat by the fire alone. "You're good at this," Cole said. "Being a mother, being a wife, being—" he gestured vaguely. "Being the heart of this place. I'm just doing what needs doing." "That's what I mean. You see what needs doing and you do it. No complaints, no asking for thanks, just showing up. That's all any of us can do. Show up and keep showing up until showing up becomes living." Cole pulled her into his arms. They sat like that for a long time, watching the fire burn down to embers, listening to the house settle around them. "I keep thinking about that auction," Sarah said softly, "about standing there thinking my life was over. And now I think maybe it was just beginning." She looked up at him. "You gave me a life, Cole, a real life. Not just surviving, but living. I'll never be able to repay that." "You already have. 10 times over." He kissed her forehead. "You gave me my family back, gave me hope, gave me—" his voice roughened. "Gave me love when I thought I'd never feel it again." "We gave each other everything," Sarah said. "That's how it works." They went to bed as snow fell outside and wind howled through the eaves. Sarah curled against Cole's side and thought about dollar coins and auction blocks and gardens coming back to life. Thought about 5 children sleeping safe in their beds. Thought about a brother who'd found a home. Thought about a man who'd seen worth where everyone else saw nothing. And Sarah Maddox, formerly Sullivan, formerly Brennan, formerly the barren woman sold for $1, fell asleep in her husband's arms and dreamed of spring coming. The years that followed weren't easy. Ranching never was. Winters were brutal. Summers were scorching. Cattle died. Crops failed. Money was tight more often than not. But they had each other. The children grew. Caleb shot up another 4 inches and started courting the blacksmith's daughter in town. Jesse lost his anger, found himself started talking about becoming a veterinarian. Tommy never became talkative, but his quietness felt peaceful now, instead of painful. Sam grew into his questions, started reading everything he could get his hands on. Rose bloomed into a girl who knew she was loved by 2 mothers, one in memory, one in flesh. Sean stayed. Made foreman after Walter retired. Started courting a girl from the neighboring ranch. Built his own life on the foundation Sarah had helped create. The garden flourished. Year after year, Sarah coaxed life from that Wyoming earth until Grace's garden became their garden. Until it fed the family and the ranch hands and half the neighbors besides. And Sarah learned that worth wasn't something you were born with or something someone else could take away. Worth was something you built with your own hands, one choice at a time. One day at a time, one moment of showing up when quitting would have been easier. She'd been sold for $1 and become priceless through the simple act of refusing to believe she was worthless. That was the story she told her grandchildren years later when Rose and Caleb and the others had children of their own. She told them about the auction block and the silver dollar and the man who'd seen what no one else could see. "And that's how I became your grandmother," she'd finish. "Not through blood, but through choice. Through staying when leaving would have been easier. Through loving when being loved back wasn't guaranteed." "What happened to the dollar?" one of the grandchildren always asked. "Your grandfather kept it for years, carried it in his pocket like a promise." Sarah would smile. "Then one day he melted it down and made 2 wedding rings. Said the dollar that bought me should be the same metal that bound us together forever." "Do you still have the rings?" "Still wearing mine." Sarah would hold up her hand, showing the thin silver band worn smooth with decades of living. "And your grandfather, he wore his, till the day he died. They buried him with it like he asked. Said he wanted to take that dollar to heaven with him. Remind God that even broken things can be redeemed if someone's willing to see their worth." The children would go quiet, then thinking about grandfathers and dollars, and worth that couldn't be measured in money. And Sarah would look out at the garden, still growing, still thriving, still producing tomatoes every summer, like Grace had never left, and feel grateful down to her bones. Grateful for an auction block that led to freedom. Grateful for a man who'd paid $1 and given her a world. Grateful for 5 children who'd taught her that family was choice, not blood. Grateful for every hard day and every moment of doubt and every time she'd wanted to quit but hadn't. Because quitting would have meant missing this. Missing everything she'd built. Missing the life she'd earned through nothing more complicated than showing up and refusing to believe she was worth only what Copper Ridge said she was worth. She'd been sold for $1 and proven she was worth everything. That was the whole story. Start to finish, beginning to end. A woman, $1, a choice, and a life built from all three.